The Calgary Police Service Child Abuse Unit has charged a man in connection with a sexual interference at a local private day home. The assault was reported to police in January of 2015 after a 4-year-old boy told his parents he was fondled by a man in the Northwest Day Home. The man, who lives in the home but was not a child care worker, is alleged to have sexually assaulted the boy when the two were alone. The operator of the day home is known to the accused in this case. Police are making efforts to contact parents who may have had children attending the day home in the 0 to 100 block of Rockyspring Rise Northwest and are asking anyone with information to call 266-1234. Miles Jarvis CLARK, age 51, has been charged with sexual assault and sexual interference with a child under the age of 16. Clark was arrested Thursday, February 5th. For more information about how to recognize signs of child abuse, please visit the Sheldon Kennedy Child Advocacy Center website.
How many parents are the CPS trying to reach out to at this point?
Well, because it's an unlicensed day home, I can't project what numbers we're dealing with, but we have made contact with some families that have attended the day home.
What's the name of this location or this facility?
Well, again, like I had said, it's unlicensed, so it goes by Sue's Day Home.
Are we talking about like dozens of other parents, or like, can you kind of ballpark it?
That's difficult to say. City licensing would have day homes licensed when there's more than 6 children attending a day home. So in a case like this, that's not the numbers that we're dealing with.
Do you have any idea how many you're looking for?
No.
So Clark and the day home operator, are they common law or married?
I can't speak to the relationship with the accused and the day home provider, but I can say that he lived in the residence.
Is the day home operator being cooperative with the police?
Initially, yes, yes, she was cooperative, but as the investigation has proceeded, things have changed.
So do you know how many opportunities this individual would have had to be alone with the kids? Like, was he there regularly?
I wouldn't say that he was there regularly, but when he was in the home, he would have had access.
Why the delay in announcing the charges?
Uh,
It's been 5 days.
Correct. Well, we were making contact with the families. We wanted to give the investigators the opportunity to make contact with families and give them the opportunity to ask questions and speak with the investigators before we went forward with the media.
So can you tell us where
These are
you're...
families of other children at the day home?
Pardon me?
These are families of other children in care there?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell us where this is at in terms of the court case? When has he made an appearance? When's his next appearance? Is he out on bail?
So he was charged on Thursday, so last Thursday, the 5th, I believe. And he was released, seen the JP, and then released on conditions not to be in the day home during business hours.
And his next appearance?
I do not have that information.
Does he
The
live
day
at
home
the
then
day
is still
home?
there.
He does reside in the day home.
The day home is still operating then?
The day home wouldn't have been shut down because, again, it's a private day home. So whether or not there's still children attending the day home, that is unknown.
So he's not allowed to live there now, though?
He's not allowed to be there during business hours,
He can still live there
as long as the day home is not open, yes.
So how hard is it for you if you don't even know how many victims you have?
So, sorry, can you repeat that?
If you don't know how many families go there, how difficult it is for you to go and try and figure out who he may have, other kids he may have had contact with?
Well, I mean, it's a challenge, but certainly by speaking with the families that are currently at the day home and speaking to them and getting information from them of what other children attend the day home, that's how we were able to, take those investigative steps.
What
So,
kind
Do you know how
so
many
the
kids
owner
live there?
can't give
I'm
any...
unclear if you do or
Sorry,
don't know how many
can you
kids.
talk into the mic too? Sorry.
Sure, sorry.
Do you not or do know how many kids went to that day home?
No.
But wouldn't the owner be able to provide that, like a list of families? And are they not providing that?
We don't have that from the day home provider, no.
Would you like to have that from the day home provider? I mean,
We-
is that, you mentioned she's no longer being cooperative. Is that part of not being cooperative?
Correct.
Like this, sorry. Like, it seems pretty easy for her to just give that information, like, in the interest of safety. Can you explain why she's not?
When we requested the information, she cited FOIP concerns.
She cited what, sorry?
FOIP, Freedom of Information.
And is that
Is that a legitimate concern?
In a criminal investigation, no.
And so is there any way around that? Like, what means do you have to be able to force that information?
We don't really have a way to force that information. That's certainly something that could be considered.
What kind of reaction are you getting from the parents you have been able to reach out to? How are they reacting when you tell them what's going on here?
The families have been very cooperative, obviously very concerned, and they're making the decisions based on what's best for their family. But at this point in time, we haven't had anybody else identified as a victim.
Do you know how many incidents of abuse would have happened against this 4-year-old?
It wasn't something that happened over a long period of time, but it happened on more than one occasion.
Because this is an unlicensed day home, does this mean that you're not able then to stop them from operating? Because to me, it seems like not a great, I sure wouldn't send my kids to someplace if I knew there was somebody who'd been charged with touching kids that lived in that home, even if he was banned from being there when my kid was being there, that wouldn't be enough insurance to say there's no way to stop the operation of this day home.
Well, the day home provider is not the accused, and
I recognize, but same roof.
correct, and that's why when we made the request for conditions that he not be present during day home hours.
So sorry.
So you've got there's no recourse then against the actual operator at that point then?
Only, of course, if she allowed him to be present during day home hours.
So how do you notify all of the families though? Like some people who don't watch the news or don't whatever, they wouldn't even know that they're taking their child into this environment. And I know he's not supposed to be there, but people breach.
Right. So what we have done in terms of making contact with the families that we know are attending there, our investigators are making those contacts, making those connections, and doing our best to identify all those that have been in attendance or attended previously.
How are you and investigators feeling about sort of the lack of cooperation here? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it frustrating?
Certainly it's frustrating, and we have to understand that we're dealing with a 4-year-old child. We're dealing with the privacy of the day home provider and the accused. So it's a very delicate balance in terms of how we protect the rights and the victim. Obviously, it's a 4-year-old child. We have to be very mindful of their well-being and their family's well-being. There's the day home provider, and then there's the accused. So it's delicate ground.
Are you able to say how the 4-year-old is doing?
Pardon me?
Are you able to say how the 4-year-old is doing?
I can't speak to how the 4-year-old is doing, but I can tell you that the Sheldon Kennedy Child Advocacy Center has amazing supports available, and those are always offered to any victim.
Can you talk about how this kid did the right thing?
Sorry.
Like how this 4-year-old, when he told the parents, like how that's what you're supposed to do?
That's a difficult question, but I think certainly the hope would be that any parent has the opportunity to have those honest discussions with their children. You never want to ask those direct probing questions, of course, but having conversations with your children and asking them how their day was, and and if behaviors change, look for those signs. And as I'd mentioned before, if you go to the website, there's all sorts of information on there as well.
So at this point, do you have any indication that there's other victims?
Sorry, I'll answer your question
I
first.
just want to know how long the place has been operating for. I'm trying to get an idea of if there may be other victims.
We
if
know,
this gets passed.
we do know that it's been open for a couple of years, but I don't know beyond that. Again, because it's unlicensed, it's very difficult to say how long it's been open for, but I do know a few years.
And are you looking at this guy's past then in that case? Is there any threat of investigation or having an investigation for you to see if there may have been other, he's 51 years old, the idea that this is the very first time something like this has happened, possible, but as an investigator, I'm sure you gotta be suspicious.
Right, and that's something that, as we talk to other families and determine if there's any other concerns, then we'll investigate those as well.
Does he come from Calgary? Has he lived here for a long time?
I don't know the answer to that question, sorry.
Of those families that are there that you have spoken to, any indication as to how many of them might have pulled their kids out, or how many are still dropping their kids off there every morning?
That was the conversation that our detectives had directly with those families. I do know that there was mention of families looking for other child care options, but I can't speak to, the total response.
So are there other possible cases that you're currently investigating against this individual?
No other allegations have been brought forward, no.
And are you hoping that anybody who might see this on TV or read it in the paper might come forward if they have been to Sue's day home before?
The request would always be that anybody has information that they contact investigators. It's always good to follow anything up in terms of, people who have attended previously, understanding and identifying who those were.